Yes.
Good morning. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for the purpose of agenda review for next week's meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer. Here. Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Quick is absent. Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Chairman Eilert.
Here. We do have a quorum present. Would the clerk please read proposed consent agenda?
Item number 1, consider approving the January 11, 2018 business session minutes.
I guess there's only one item, so
Only one.
that will stand. Moving to the action agenda.
Item number 2, resolution number 0087-18, conduct a public hearing and consider declaring certain real property as unmarketable surplus and authorizing its transfer to an abutting owner.
Mr. Ford.
Bob Ford, Legal Department. Under our county regulations, we are required to hold a public hearing whenever we're going to declare surplus property and transfer it to an abutting owner, so we will have a public hearing next week to consider that. I don't expect there'll be anybody here to speak on that other than myself. I could give you a little overview today if you'd like, or we can just wait till next week.
A quick overview would be fine.
The county has title to a 3.5 feet wide strip of land between two lots at 8828 and 8836 Reeves Road in Overland Park. We acquired title in 1979 through a tax foreclosure sale. The property has been determined to be an unmarketable remnant. The abutting owners, David and Lisa Joyner, have fenced off this remnant and maintained it as their own, as did all their predecessors in title. Recently, they approached the county seeking to have this remnant transferred to them in connection with a planned City of Overland Park drainage project. The Joiners and Overland Park both support the county's contemplated transfer, and they are working together on that project, which will require a very small portion of this piece for the city's project.
Okay. All right. Questions? Well, this is a public hearing, so it will remain on action. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 3, consider approving an agreement with the City of Overland Park for the shared provisions of advanced life support and basic life support services within the City of Overland Park.
Mr. Davis, Director of MEDAC.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. Paul Davis, Director of MEDACT. So what we're presenting before you next week is an amended agreement that would further advance our opportunity to serve the county. And that is through an agreement with the City of Overland Park is to take over completely 2 ambulances in Overland Park. They're getting out of the ambulance business over a period of time. And so we would operate completely with all our staff, 100%, 2 ambulances in Overland Park. And that's what that amended agreement is proposing.
Paul, I understand that we don't have, did we receive a written agreement back from Overland Park yet?
We have not. After the legal review, it was sent back to Overland Park just this week to make sure that there was no questions, and have not received a written agreement back yet.
But my point is, if we don't have one before next week, this would be continued?
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, I assume there would be some notification to the city that we need that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Allen?
Will the 2 Overland Park ambulances be rebranded with the MEDAC, or will they continue to use those?
Our plan is to rebrand those as soon as possible. In actuality, we will likely be coming before you again very soon, requesting funding for those ambulances.
Thank you.
Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Davis, does the City of Overland Park's Fire Department provide any EMT or emergency response service, or do they rely solely upon your department?
They provide first responder ALS service as well, in addition to the partnership.
Do you see any impact, since the management of the ambulance service is no longer going to be under their control, moving over to your control? Is that going to affect operations in any way?
I expect we'll see a reallocation of personnel so they can be spread more evenly across the city and reduce some of the call load there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, excuse me, Mr. Olszak.
Well, I was just going to say, is it possible to move this to consent based on the waiting for the legal agreement to come?
Well, that's fine. We can move it to consent, and then if we don't have the signed agreement back, why, then we can make another decision. So remove it, yeah. Okay, consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 4, consider authorizing the Mental Health Center to increase the 0.5 FTE co-responder position for the City of Olathe Police Department to a 1.0 FTE and authorize the reclassification of reserves to fund the position.
Mr. Courtney.
Tanner Fortney, Mental Health. The City of Olathe, I think you're all familiar pretty much with the co-responder program, so I won't get into a lot of detail about that. The City of Olathe has 1.5 co-responders right now. The half-time position that we're talking about today was actually approved in the spring of last year by the board. And since that time, Olathe is now requesting that go to a full-time position. This is basically very similar to everything that you've seen in the past with co-responders. There is one difference that we're making. Generally in the past, these positions, not the program as a whole, but the positions and everything associated with them, equipment, vehicles, all of those things of that nature, have all been we have been fully reimbursed from the cities for all of those expenses on a monthly basis. We are making a slight change, and the only change is to the laptop that we provide to our staff. Currently, the cities provide them with a laptop so that the co-responders can enter information into the law enforcement agency's database as they need for the information they track, and then they have a laptop computer provided by us so that they can connect with our electronic health record system and enter the information we need. And we've had some discussions with the cities, especially with moving some co-responders, adding some co-responders, and the cities have asked if we would be willing to pick up the cost for our laptop device. And we feel that that is fair. It is our computer. We do use it for other purposes if necessary, so we don't have any problems with accepting that. So that's the only real change that we've had, and we're going to start making that change with all of the cities that are participating in the agreement moving forward. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question, but first a comment. Mr. Chairman, my daughter had been a community service officer for the City of Olathe. She's now in the academy for the police department, so good for her. But as a community service officer, she ran the station staffing, communication, and allocation for nights for the department. And I just wanted to let Mr. Tanner know and Mr. DeWeese know that I think it was always well received, the idea of the co-responder, but they really love it. So I'm surprised that they're only asking for an additional half-time, because the impact it has on the officers to keep people out of the criminal justice system and more rightly into the mental health and support services system. I mean, it's just fantastic. So keep going. Computers are fine. I mean, whatever you need, keep it going. I did want to ask a little bit, though, just being my bent, under the analysis you talk about it being more cost-effective for the county and our community partners. We can meet offline to talk about it. I'd just like to learn a little bit more what your thought process is there, and just a question at this point.
Sure.
Mr. Brown.
If you'd like me to, I can address that partially right now if you'd like, but
Mr. Brown.
We can wait.
Just a quick comment that as a commissioner in conversations both with the general public and with other elected officials at the city level, this is a topic of conversation every time I meet with them, and how excited they are and the impact that they see and that their officers feel as a part of it. It's fantastic. It's excellent.
Well, yes, Mr. Allen.
Just a quick question. With this increase, the number of co-responders spread out through the counties approximately?
it won't increase the number of bodies. We're just moving a part-time
I mean, to
position.
like 8 full-time across the county, or?
Yeah, for the City of Olathe.
Okay, but I mean, countywide, I'm just trying to get a number.
How many are there?
We have 8 countywide.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Great program.
there's a fiscal note to it, saving court costs, police costs,
Yeah.
as well as a human service which is equally or more important that individuals get treatment instead of being forced into the justice system process. Consent?
Fine with me.
All right, so noted. Thank you. Are there any other items to be considered?
No, sir.
All right, that concludes our agenda review for next week. We are adjourned, and we'll come back after a short break for Public Building Commission.